I really just wish Bob Arum would keep that same energy. I wish he would keep that same energy when it came to fighters like Lomachenko.
Yes. This is Terrence Crawford Jr. You're watching True School Sports.
All right. The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing game's been missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, right now I'm on my way to the boxing gym for another great day of training. You know, definitely gonna be getting in dog shape before we go to Las Vegas in a couple weeks. Looking really forward to that. But I wanted to talk about Terence Crawford because I did a live about him last night. Shout out to everybody who came on the live last night. Shout out to Rap Star, you know, Boxing Therapy, Lyndon Jones, Hyro. Shout out to him. Shout out to L Dog. Shout out to Intangible Boxing News. Shout out to everybody who stopped by last night. MMA, the GOAT, you know, MXBC. Shout out to you. But I wanted to talk about something that I thought about after that live was over last night, and that was basically, as you guys can see by the title, I think Terence Crawford is great for me. He's great for boxing for me because Terence Crawford has exposed that boxing fans don't value what's truly important. And not just boxing fans, but the boxing promoters, the boxing establishment, just boxing at large does not value the right things. He's exposing that boxing at large, from the fans to the media to the promoters, they do not value the right things because people say they want fighters like Terence Crawford to scale weight classes, to be a dominant champion, to knock people out, to show pound for pound skills on a fight-by-fight basis, right? But instead of appreciating that and really putting value on that, we're not talking about that. We want to talk about ratings. We want to talk about, you know, we want to compare his girlfriend to Earl Spence. You know, it's just getting real corny. You know, it's getting real corny. And, like, I'm going to come on and say it like this. I've been thinking about it a lot recently. And a lot of people are saying that Terence Crawford does not deserve 50-50 against Earl Spence. And I'm going to say bullshit. He does deserve 50-50 against Earl Spence. Because Earl Spence Jr. isn't Floyd Mayweather. He's not Manny Pacquiao. He's not Canelo Alvarez. You know, he's not on that tier of rarefied air in boxing where he's transcending the sport. And, like, you know, there's nobody on the street right now. I'm walking in a really quiet part of Hollywood. But if there was somebody on the street, I could ask Joe Blow on the street if they know who Earl Spence is. And odds are, they wouldn't know who he is. They wouldn't know who Earl Spence is. And I might just do that as we're walking, but, like, he's not at that level. And for people to sit here and posture as to say he is at that level and act like he deserves 60 or 70% of the purse, it's just not cool. Because truth be told, his welterweight resume for a guy that fought his entire career at welterweight in comparison to Crawford, who's only been at welterweight for 4 or 5 fights, it's not. His welterweight resume is not that much better than Terence Crawford. It might have better name value, might have more name recognition, but it's not much better than Terence Crawford. Because when he fought Porter, right, everybody talks about how great of a win Porter is, and Porter is a really good win. But let's not act like Porter didn't get outboxed by Ugas. You know, he shouldn't even have been champion, to be honest. He should have just been a regular guy with no belt when Earl fought him. You see what I'm saying? You know, he's fighting Danny Garcia now, and, like, look. Danny Garcia, I'm sorry. Danny Garcia is a glorified tune-up. He is a glorified tune-up. He is. Because the reality is this. People are putting Danny Garcia way up here for what he did at 140. But at welterweight, I don't care if his fights are close. You know, the reality is he's been losing all of his fights closely at welterweight. Like, and he loses in the same fashion every single time. So what Danny Garcia is showing you in every big fight he has at welterweight is that he's only at a certain level. He can't break through that top level. You know, so that if he beats Danny Garcia, cool. Everybody who's the top of welterweight has beaten Danny Garcia. Who else did he fight at welterweight? Who else? You know, he fought Chris Algieri, blown up 140-pounder. He fought Bundu, a Keith Thurman leftover. You know, it's not like Earl Spence is Sugar Ray Leonard and he's just whooping everybody. He's not that. You know, and Terence Crawford's only been at welterweight for what, 4 or 5 fights. I don't think Earl Spence is exactly lighting the world on fire with what he's doing at welterweight. But that's just my opinion. You know. But boxing fans, like, the boxing in general, just values the wrong things because I've always heard people say they want a guy who brings excitement to the sport in the ring. They want a guy who is mean in the ring, who's got pound skills, who goes undisputed, who tries to fight the best, who does all that stuff. And then you get Bob Arum talking about, I'm not gonna go bankrupt trying to promote him, but then Bob Arum's net worth is $300 million. So Bob Arum is never gonna fucking go bankrupt. Bob Arum could promote 3 Terence Crawfords and he would never go bankrupt. He probably lose a lot of money because unfortunately for Bob, he's like a lot of these promoters these days, unfortunately, that they don't really promote. They cut TV deals. They're not promoters, they're brokers. And there's a difference between promoting and brokering. Okay, promoting is like, hey, I'm gonna get Terence on all these networks. I'm gonna try to get Terence endorsement deals. I'm gonna try to get him some sort of exposure outside of sports and boxing that's gonna open up his that's gonna build his profile and put him in a position of power. The same way back in the day, Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran used to be in 7-Up commercials and things like that. Bob could do those things. Bob can do those things, but a lot of these promoters are just lazy and they just cut the TV deals. So he's got a point. I know from experience from interviewing Terence Crawford that he's not an easy guy to get to open up. But at the same time, it's like, well, if he's the best fighter in the world, if he's the best fighter in the world, you should continue to promote him as such. And like, I never really saw, when it came to promoting Lomachenko, Lomachenko can't speak English. Lomachenko's personality isn't exactly great. He's not exactly the most endearing person in the world. But Top Rank, Bob Arum, and all parties involved were more than happy to promote him. They're more than happy to say he's better than Muhammad Ali. But when it comes to Terence Crawford, the most dominant fighter in boxing at the moment, 37-0, 3-division champion, undisputed champion, pound-for-pound star, all of a sudden it's an issue. All of a sudden you're saying, who the fuck needs Terence Crawford? And it's just really sad. It's really sad that that boxing fans have taken and used this whole Errol Spence saga to demean Terence Crawford. It's not Terence Crawford's fault right now. I mean, if he stays with Bob Arum any longer at this point, then you can blame him. But it's not his fault. It's really not his fault. And how anybody can talk shit about Terence Crawford after what he's doing in the ring, fight after fight, against all kinds of different styles. People want to say he's fought bums and this, that, and the third. But listen, the reality is this. To turn in the kind of performances he's turning in fight after fight after fight, it takes a certain level of mental focus, discipline, preparation, and respect for the opponents. You see what I'm saying? I really just wish Bob Arum would keep that same energy. I wish he would keep that same energy when it came to fighters like Lomachenko, because the reality is this. I've never heard Bob Arum say that Lomachenko has to go out and he's got to promote the fights. I never heard him say that. If somebody can pull up a clip of me of Bob Arum saying Lomachenko has to promote his fights more and he's got to do all these things, then let me know, because I don't remember Lomachenko being boisterous or talking or doing anything that drew any sort of attention to himself, outside of boxing. He's not like doing backflips like Teofimo Lopez or making these like crazy Instagram videos. He just goes in there, he trains, he fights really well, and people like him. And it's the same thing with Terence Crawford. These guys don't care about being superstars like that. They don't care about none of that. They just want to go in there and they want to let their hands do the talking. Terence Crawford is the definition of letting your hands do the talking. So how about this? Instead of saying that he's got to promote his fights, because last time I checked, Terence Crawford's job description is not promoter. It's not, Top Rank CEO / promoter. Terence Crawford's job and his title is world championship fighter, world-class fighter, pound for pound, caliber fighter. That's what his job title is. And when, he delivers with his job title, So how about we put some pressure on Bob Arum, and not just Bob Arum, but all the promoters, Eddie Hearn, Oscar, all these promoters, to stop being fucking lazy and to start actually doing things, to think outside the box and promote their fighters. Because literally, when it comes to Terence, like, the more I hear people talk about Terence, the more I'm just realizing that boxing in general, the fans, boxing media, boxing everything, like, they just value the wrong things. They value the wrong things. Nobody ever tells Canelo to promote his fights more. And like Canelo isn't exactly like the most the best personality in the world. He just goes, he fights, and then he says Viva Mexico, and he sells however many pay-per-views he sells, you know what I'm saying? So I just see a bunch of double standards. Like, there's a clear double standard. There's a clear double standard between how Bob Arum has treated Lomachenko, a 14-2 fighter who's come up short in 2 of his biggest fights of his career, come up short, still has them, still says he's great, still does this, but then the guy who's 37-0 with 3 division champion, undisputed, all these things, he's not keeping that same energy. He's not getting the same treatment as a guy like Lomachenko. But like, you know, Terence Crawford, I can't wait in a weird way with his career. Like I can't wait till Terence Crawford retires, because like he said in his interview with Andre Ward, it's only going to be when he retires that the boxing game, the sport of boxing, the boxing establishment, that's going to be when they really appreciate Terence, when he's no longer boxing anymore, because then Bob Arum is going to promote fighters that are not as good as him, that can't switch hit, that don't have that right touch of meanness, you know what I'm saying? That aren't going to win every single fight in dominant fashion. You know, Bob Arum is taking Terence Crawford for granted right now because of the fact that, you know, he's got such a great stable of fighters. Tyson Fury, Inoue, Josh Taylor, Shakur Stevenson, Jose Ramirez, and the list goes on and on. And many of those guys that I named are guys that do numbers. They get decent ratings. They move tickets. They're, you know, a couple of those guys that I mentioned are a promoter's dream. You know, it's not really hard to promote a lot of those guys, because either those guys have great personalities or they come from countries that already have a built-in fan base. Like, you know, Taylor has the Scottish fans, Fury has the British fans. I'm not sure what the Japanese fans would be like in America, but I know Inoue's got his fans as well. People, you know, it's different when you're an American fighter, because like I've said so many times, in America there's so many entertainment options. There's like 7 sports that are more popular than boxing in America. So to capture the attention of the public in America, you gotta really be something special. And Terence Crawford is something that's special. But I don't think that Bob Arum has put the marketing dollars behind Terence Crawford like he has Lomachenko. And it's a shame. It really is a shame, because I know when Terence Crawford fights, like, he gets promotion just the week of the fight. But like when Fury's fighting, or Lomachenko's fighting, or one of those guys, them guys are getting promotion weeks in advance. And there's a clear difference in how each of them is promoted. So make of that what you will. Terence Crawford is just exposing boxing for what it is. And the great Steve Kim, you know, the great writer Steve Kim, he said it best: boxing is a business dressed up and masqueraded as a sport. And it's true. He's exposing boxing for what it is just by being himself. Ain't that some shit? He's exposing boxing for what it is just by being himself. Just by being a soft-spoken, but thorough. A soft-spoken, thorough guy who does not give a fuck, who doesn't care about being a big superstar. All he wants to do is just be known as the best fighter. And Top Rank, it's Top Rank's job, and every promoter's job, that if a fighter is as great as Terence Crawford, you need to promote them as such. The same way you do for guys that are 14-2, you know, losing the young fighters and Uber drivers like Lomachenko. So I'm gonna leave it at that. You guys have a great day. I'm gonna go to the boxing gym and train. You know, get a little stronger. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Dania. So until next time, take care, guys.
Hey, this is Adrian Granados, and you're watching True School Sports.